And then 70% said that they would bake more if there was less mess.
That is 100% my daughter.
Wouldn't we all?
Yes.
That's not just Gen Z.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's Gen me. I don't know what generation I am. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Need to Know. I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and the creator of Bigger Bolder Baking. And I'm joined, as always, with my lovely sidekick, my partner in crime, the frosting to my cupcake.
I knew you were going to get there.
Which is my favorite part, by the way. Ami. Ami Shukla.
Well, hello.
How you doing? I'm going to have to start writing these down because I can't think of them at the last minute.
I kind of like the spontaneity. What's it going to be this time?
Yeah. How you doing, Ami?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm happy that it's summer. It's not too hot right now in LA.
No, you know, it stays cool for a little while. I think it gets hot right when we just about get ready to go back to school.
Yeah. And the kids are out of school?
Yeah. They just got out.
George is out of school too.
Yeah.
So speaking of kids, we're going to head straight into hot from the oven. And I want to ask you, have you seen the TikTok cookie challenge?
I have seen some of these challenges. They are so funny.
Are they adorable?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what the thing about it is that we've all had these moments in our house, but like you're not recording it.
Right.
And then somebody does this.
Should we explain what the TikTok challenge is?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just in case anyone doesn't know.
So I'm going to share some video links in the show notes. So the TikTok challenge is there's 3 people, usually mom, dad, and a child. 2 people get offered cookies, but 1 doesn't. And the child kind of has to decide whether they get extra cookies or they share their cookies. You can see it all over the face if you watch these videos. It's very cute. People went in like absolutely nuts for these videos. The one of them that I watched had 6 million likes.
Did the child for the one that got that many likes? Did the child share the cookie?
It's funny that one did, yes. And eventually they come around. It doesn't take too long either.
Yeah.
And they come around, they share the cookie because they got 2 cookies and then their mom got like none.
Right.
And one child tried to negotiate and say, rather than me give you the 2 cookies that I have, I saw the box in the kitchen. Bring over the box. And they were like, well, but you have 2 cookies. Like, no. Yeah, I know I have 2 cookies, but bring over the box. And he was like pointing out, it was like, it's right there. You just bring over the box.
The one that keeps getting me is the one where like the child sees that they have 2 cookies and the mom has none. And instead of sharing the cookie, gets super emotional and goes and like crawls into her mom's lap and is so sad for the mom.
Wasn't that so cute? And with somebody with a 5-year-old, like we've experienced all that. And you know, when we did see this trend, we thought like that'd be so cute for George. He's the perfect age to do that.
So you did it with George.
So we did it. We have the video and definitely check it out. And if you're listening, go check it out on YouTube.
1, 2, 3. You don't get any.
Oh, I don't get any.
I got
this,
extra.
Granny. Oh, I got one. Granny got one. George got 2. I didn't get one. Now what do we do? Thank you, George. That is so kind.
Do I have one?
That is.
Thank you.
Now everybody gets one.
Yay!
You are so kind.
Yay!
You are the best boy.
Are they good cookies?
You can have milk with mine.
Yes, you can, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing with me. That was so incredibly kind. So what do you think of that?
Well, you know what? I'm not surprised. Of course, George was going to give you the cookie.
But he did sass me a little bit at the beginning and was kind of like, "Ha, you have no cookie." It was very sweet. But you know what? As a mother, the fact that he did like not too long after give me the cookie, that made me feel good.
It made you feel good.
No, I was like, thank God. I was thinking to myself, thank God he gave me the cookie.
You know what I'm wondering is with teenagers, could I still do that same cookie challenge? What do you think?
No,
if I had Lila there as a 16-year-old.
Do they have as much empathy? They'd be like, you've got grown-up money. Go buy your own cookie.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, I guess you don't need a cookie, Mom. Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of teenagers and kids, there's another thing that I've been seeing on TikTok is this whole division. I know they often like to categorize moms as, are you this kind of a mom or that kind of a mom?
Yeah,
But
that's true, actually. You're right.
yeah, but this one I actually thought was sort of fascinating. It was, are you a gummy bear mom or are you an almond mom or an ingredient mom?
Okay.
Okay, so the gummy bear mom is the mom who has like all these packaged snacks. So like, thinking about like kids who are like home for the summer and they're just going to be like digging into those snack drawers in the cabinets and looking for food. Do you have like, candy and potato chips and, all of this like stuff that like kids can just eat all day long? Or are you the kind of mom who has, flour and sugar and, butter and, if you want a cookie, you can bake it yourself.
Yeah.
That kind of, what's your, so how would you say, where do you fall into that?
I know. I think like I am an ingredient mom, and
Yeah.
I probably mostly because of my background and my love for cooking.
Right.
And when you go on to bigger, bolder baking, like there's so many so many homemade ingredients. There's so many homemade versions of kids' treats that you normally would buy in the store, because that's what I like to do.
Right.
And I make them with George. It's a lot of fun and it makes me feel good. We had a lot of ingredients we could bake whenever we wanted, but our candy cupboard was sparse.
Right.
That's just the way I grew up. And then also being in the 80s, I don't think I grew up in such a snacking culture. But I do know that we do also have some snacks for George, because when you're at the park or you're in the car for 2 hours or whatever it is. So I do definitely see the benefit of those like on the go snacks,
Right.
that when he needs to have something fast, especially when he was younger.
Well, this is like my biggest problem with this is that I am an ingredient mom. I like to say, if you want to treat, you have to make it. I'm really into that. And that's the way I raise the kids. It's more or less the way we were raised. I mean, we had some snacks, but not a lot. But you have to be a united front as a family to be able to like do this. And my husband is definitely like a snack dad.
Snack dad.
So, he'll go and like if he goes to the grocery store, he comes back with like all the best snacks. And he tells me he doesn't look at labels. He doesn't do anything. He's just like, these are good, these are good, these are good. And I end up like looking at the labels and looking what all the ingredients are. And then I feel like, oh, I don't want to buy this for my family. So my kids will like think it's so fun to have a house full of snacks. And then they're older. So they're like, Mom, we know better. We're not going to just spend all day eating this. So I feel like I've had to make some sort of compromise.
Yeah.
And like kind of say, well, okay, there are these packaged snacks. I don't feel good about it, but you should also be making things from scratch if you want. So it's a little bit of a compromise.
I definitely, because usually when the snacks come into the house, it's actually me, because I'm the one who the lunchbox and stuff, both Kevin and I do. But the park and those trips and in the car, whatever, I'm always like thinking ahead. So I do buy snacks for those times, but he doesn't always go for them. And I buy like the higher protein bars, doesn't go for it. I buy the meat sticks, doesn't go for it. So it can be kind of funny with George in particular. But the convenience of like of the snacks,
Right.
is, as a mom, one less thing to worry about.
Right.
If you have a snack ready to go. So I absolutely see the benefit of it. And we do have to pay for it. And we're lucky that we live in 2025. And you and I are in LA, and we do have access to like really good quality snacks, but we do have to pay for them. I do have a list right here. Nearly all of these I've actually tried with George.
Yeah.
Once Upon a Farm, you've probably seen the ads for.
Yeah, they're like those organic.
Jennifer Gardner's company.
Oh, that's hers.
Yeah, it is. They are refillable pouches, and they are yogurt based and fruit and whatever, vegetables, but they are very expensive. They're like $4. They're like $3.50 a pouch. So you have to pay for it. There's chopped meat sticks, freeze dried fruit, which I know you're not a huge fan of, right?
I mean, dried fruit in general just sticks to kids' teeth. So then I like to worry about that.
It does. And you know what? George used to love them at one point, but he stopped eating those also. And you get great ones in Trader Joe's.
Yes.
You get different varieties. They are great for baking. Freeze-dried fruit is great for putting in ice creams, coloring cupcakes, like we know this. And it's It's more expensive than an apple, but it's not crazy expensive. The one thing is they dry up when you open them afterwards.
Yeah.
Go Macro Kids bars. These are high protein bars. I tried these with George, a no-go and very expensive. But they're one of the top ones on the market. That was just George. Then there's a company called Simple Mills. We buy this in Whole Foods and it's made with seed flours. It's grain-free. And they do a variety of they do crackers, but they also do, George just had one this morning, banana bars, things like that. That's a really nice option. They also do their own little kind of homemade graham cracker. Super sweet. I've made s'mores out of those before. And then there's the bear fruit snacks. You know those? Do you know those?
Oh yeah, they're like the gummy. Are they the strips?
Fruit roll up.
Yeah.
We've gone to parties and there's been a big basket of those. Sometimes you can actually buy these products at Costco.
Yeah.
Which makes it really handy.
Right.
But if they're like perishable and fresh, you have to be
I'll
careful.
tell you, the minute I buy something from Costco, my kids
stop eating them.
Yeah, they just decide they don't like it anymore, and suddenly I have 500 of them.
No, you're dead right.
But you know what? I one of the things now that my kids can read, so George in the future, because I'm still trying to stick to being the ingredient household, I printed out a list of healthy snacks and I just put it on the fridge, with a magnet. And it was just sort of, as my kids were kind of deciding to go for a bag of chips or a handful of pretzels or something, I try to tell them, if you want a snack, try to have something fresh and try to have something with protein.
Yeah.
And that can be an apple and peanut butter. That can be carrots and hummus. That can be, cheese and crackers even. But don't just eat the crackers. Try to have a little something with it. It could be a glass of milk and a pouch of trail mix, just a little bit of something to keep you going. So I made this list of, 10 or 15 things so that if they're wondering what they might want to have for a snack, it doesn't always work, but it helps remind them a little bit okay, well, maybe I do like celery and peanut butter, which is kind of a weird combination that we all forget about, but is actually quite delicious.
Yeah.
So we try.
You know what? It's good. Exactly what you're saying. I have a list printed for Kevin, myself, and George's nanny, Maria, in the cupboard. But I do think George, because of the way he is and he's so curious, I actually do think printing a little list for him and being able to decide himself would be a huge incentive.
You could do it with pictures.
Yeah.
You could just do it with pictures.
Because they do that in school.
Yeah, just
such a good idea.
What do you want to eat?
Yeah.
And then you could have
Choose your own adventure.
Images. Oh, that's a fun idea.
That's a really good idea. I'm glad I came up with that.
Yeah.
So, I will
for the record.
I'm just going to slide this in right there before we move on into the mix. This is my, as an adult, as a mom, if you have no kids, whatever it is, but usually this is my go-to when you're on the road in an airport. You need kind of real food. A Starbucks is the way to go. Bags of almonds. They have protein boxes with an egg. They have cheese and crackers. They have mozzarella sticks with salami around the outside. They do breakfast sandwiches that we have gotten at all hours of the day for George with egg and bacon and cheese inside.
My kids even love those little egg bites.
The egg bites, that's what Kevin gets. A Starbucks, when the kids are hungry and you're looking for something that's
just
kind of
quick,
and real and also sometimes warm, which I do think makes a difference. Starbucks.
Right.
That's my last thing.
And if you drink milk or your kids drink milk, Starbucks will also do a steamed milk.
And we get a steamed milk breakfast sandwich.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. I do prefer local coffee shops 100% of the time, except for when I'm in an airport, and then I'm just so grateful.
Yeah, I know.
For a Starbucks.
So sticking on the topic of baking with kids and ingredients, we're going to go in the mix and we are going to talk about baking with kids. And we have some really interesting statistics. Did I say that right? Statistics. Yeah. I was thinking older. Stats. Oh my gosh. Here, it's not your first rodeo on me. As I've gotten older, I've developed a lisp. Is that a thing?
No.
No?
No.
It's not, is it?
No.
Jeez, it's weird. I think this is laziness. Just gotten lazier.
Just more coffee. You just need more coffee.
Okay. Now, this doesn't surprise me because I was this child. I was this stat. Gen Z, born 1997 until 2012, which are your children.
Yes.
16 and 13.
Yeah.
Love baking. And Gen Alpha, which is my child, 2013 onwards, George was 2020, are huge into baking, which makes sense to me because as a child, I did a ton of baking. Running Bigger Bolder Baking, we know the demographic of our audience, and it does vary depending platform to platform. YouTube would run quite young, and that would be our audience on YouTube.
Oh,
and then co-viewing, definitely Gen Z, and then co-viewing with parents. So that makes perfect sense to me. So Gen Z say that 50% of them love to bake because they get to taste their creations. When I used to bake, it was kind of to share it with somebody. Maybe when I was younger, I definitely had more of a sweet tooth, but it was always to share it. And they love to also eat it. And they also wish, the majority of them wish they had more time in the kitchen, which is interesting, because I think in a lot of school programs, you don't get in the kitchen, home economics and stuff. Is that gone?
It's not totally gone, but it's not there as prevalent as it used to be.
No, it's not. And kind of a luxury now, right?
Yes.
Which I loved that class. I needed that class.
Yeah.
It was so important for me. So that's a shame. It's a bummer because it's a great introduction into the kitchen.
I think it's called something else, but I do
science, home science.
Yeah, something. It has a different name, but there is something. There are some schools that do that. Not my kids' schools don't have that.
See, we used to do that multiple times a week.
Yeah.
It's interesting. A shame because that's so beneficial.
Yes.
Yeah, especially if the kid doesn't get that exposure at home. A lot of this comes from the pandemic, especially probably you're actually Gen Z, Ami, your kids definitely probably would have baked a lot during the pandemic, right?
They did. Yeah. Honestly, it feels like a blur. We were definitely in the kitchen all the time.
Yeah, you would have been for sure. Which was a fantastic time to what a great skill to learn during that very difficult time.
Yeah, for sure.
Gen Z also recognize that it's a mood alterer, in a good way.
Yeah.
That 34% say that improves their mood. 32% say that it helps them unwind, which I think we could all agree upon. 26% of Gen Z say that they love to bake and share with family, which is definitely, I'm in that category. And then 70% said that they would bake more if there was less mess.
That is 100% my daughter.
Wouldn't we all?
Yes.
That's not just Gen Z.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's Gen me. I don't know what generation I am. But that applies to all ages. I have to say, as somebody who took a love for baking and desserts and food as a young child, and I was very fortunate, and I was hell-bent on making that my journey and my career. I'm very fortunate that I was able to do that.
Yes.
Because no matter what I had done, I would have always come back to baking. So to see kids and hear from kids who have that passion young and thrive doing it, and it helps them emotionally, physically, whatever it is. I know I am a testament to know how far you can take that love and passion.
Yes.
And now, I run a baking brand, and now I've made baking my whole entire life.
Yeah.
So it's really lovely, and it's something that you can start straight away.
And then what about George? He's not Gen Z.
He's Gen Alpha.
Okay.
So he's Gen Alpha, and they're calling them tiny tastemakers, especially online when you see videos of very young kids, George's age, tiny tastemakers. I do a lot of videos with George, chopping, cooking, whatever it is, because it's mostly for me. It's not always to be shared. It's just kind of for me, because it just, every time I see it, just fascinates me.
Yeah.
And it fascinates me. It makes me so proud. Yeah. And like I said, to see him evolve and now use real knives,
right? And
to see the pride. I think that's one of the big reasons that I bake with George so much is the instant gratification on his face and the pride he has in whatever he's made within himself.
Sure.
That's the reason I do it. And this lifetime skill that he's going to have. And even if he doesn't do anything with it, but if he's able to go out into the world and bake and cook for his college friends, let me tell you something, everybody. And I think we all know this, if people are interested in food and bakers, being that person who knows how to cook and bake is invaluable.
Right.
In any situation.
Yeah.
The one thing about Gen Alpha, it is from 2012 and onwards, is that they are of an age now where they're consuming content, baking content. I was on Netflix Nailed It, that's family viewing, and some other cooking shows on Food Network. And then we have like YouTube, and we have like, millions of all the videos you could possibly want. They're consuming that content too, and then wanting to get into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And for that age, especially for the younger side of that, it's, it's the motor skills, it's the concentration, it's following something through.
Yes. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
for George, soon it's going to be reading. It's going to be reading recipes.
Right.
And for the longest time, we have a digital scale. So I'll get him when he was learning numbers to do the numbers.
Right. I actually kind of think it's so great, that like, sometimes you feel like, oh, there's so much content out there and kids are on screens all the time. But if they're consuming content that's like showing like, oh, look, let's bake cookies, let's make muffins, let's do all of this stuff. And they're getting to see someone do it. And then that's inspiring them to get into the kitchen and do that themselves. I think this is amazing. So Gemma, with a Gen Alpha child and George being so young, do you have some tips for baking with kids, introducing baking with kids? How did you start? How old was George?
I do. I have a lot of tips. I would say, so he was in the kitchen from when he was newborn because it was the pandemic. We were still filming videos and we had him in a rocker. So he's been in the whole time. I'm very careful about my verbiage when he comes into the kitchen. Like I try when I see him pick up something, it's not like, no, like, or, I'll kind of carefully move a knife out of his hands. Like, you know what, George, this knife actually will be really easy for you to use rather than like losing my life because he picks up a chopping knife. So I try to be very careful about how I go about what, I say to him. So I saw a TikTok video of a mom giving advice about baking with kids or kids in the kitchen. And she said, if you're making dinner, if it's a stressful time, if you're under a time crunch, do not invite kids into the kitchen with you because you're almost setting them up for failure because they're going to kind of do their own thing and they're not doing what you want them to do. And then you're going to get cross. Like, and I'm speaking for myself here. And then you get annoyed at them. And to be fair, they didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And so I'm very aware of that. And another thing also, George is better at this now, but when he was younger, once I put him up in his tower, I have this lovely tower that I got from a company called Sprouts, these wooden towers. You have those for your kids when they were younger?
No, we just use chairs.
It's called a chef's tower. And whatever's on the counter, he will start to grab and put into a bowl.
Yeah.
And then I would get frustrated, but that's not for now. And I'd get mad at, kind of at him, not really mad, but like I would just get frustrated. I'd find it very stressful. And I realized you can't, do not for like a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old even, don't have bowls there. Even George now at 5, that you don't want them to instantly dump into a bowl. So just make sure you edit your area before you invite them up. Make sure that you have everything that you need. And I will say, monitor. So with regards to knives, which is a big thing for George, you were talking about like the knife there being really important, and it's because they know it's an adult thing. So with regards to the knife, I started George off with a plastic chopping knife that I got on Amazon, a set of like 3. Then I moved him on to was a chopper, almost like a dough divider, if you know what that is. And it's smaller and it's ridged on the bottom and it's hard and it's metal, so it can cut through vegetables, but the children can hold it in their hand. And then we graduated on, not to a knife, but I have these little steak knives in our kitchen that are serrated, but they're small. And he will use those to chop vegetables. And I have to say, it was the perfect transition. Right. And when he got to use those, he literally was like, I get to use these now.
A moment of pride.
He was, over the moon. And I have 2 different versions. So then recently I said to him, hey, George, today, why don't you use this version? And he was just like, stop. He was like, I can't. Yeah. This is a big deal. It's really great to see him progress and so quickly as well. Right. So my rules are like, I don't say no to him. Anytime he says to me, can I help? I always say yes. It's not always the most opportune time, but I'm so used to cooking with him right now and baking with him. I will say the more you do it, the easier it gets. They will take any job. You don't have to think like, oh gosh, I'm making a beef. Like, I don't want them to like in here frying off beef. It's like, no, give them a peeler and a carrot. Guess how long it's going to take them? Ages. Right. And they love it. You know what I do sometimes? This is God's honest truth. When I have maybe old vegetables that are going to go in the compost, I will say to him, "Can you chop these vegetables for me?" And he's like, "Absolutely, I can. I can do that for you."
Right.
And then they go in the compost anyway.
Well, I love all of those tips. And, I think there's something, as my kids are older, they've been baking with me in the kitchen since they could walk, and at every stage of their lives, it was, what can they handle? When they're really little, they want to squeeze things, they want to hold things. So, you make a dough and give them some to roll, give them some to squeeze out. If you want them to put flour or, something that into a bowl, you measure it out and then tell them that, and you tell them very specifically what their job is.
Yeah.
I'm going to measure, you're going to put it in the bowl.
Yeah.
So they feel very clear. Oh, I get to do this. Okay, now I'm going to, now you're going to scoop it out and I'm going to cook it. So that you're doing things together and that they have a clear role.
Yeah, that's important. That's a good one.
Yeah. And then they, as my kids have gotten older, they, as they got a little bit older, they got to choose some of the recipes, which was always really fun. We would open up a recipe book or look online and say, oh, what would be fun to make? I really do love that woman's tip about like, don't be in a hurry. Don't be trying to do your own project. There's times when I have a baking job and I am on a deadline or, I'm like, when mom has a job, you can't help.
Yeah.
And I get very clear with that, or if I'm busy doing things in the kitchen is in chaos, you have to wait until I'm done.
Yeah.
So, they wait their turn. Now they're a little bit older. One of the things I'll say my number one tip for baking with kids, teach them how to clean up after themselves.
That's a very good one.
100%. We just say, leave no trace in the kitchen.
No trace, yeah.
You put you get your muffins in the oven, you do, simple, accessible recipes. And you, as soon as something is in the oven, you just start wiping everything down. You do it together. You don't make them do it by themselves. But they have to be there with you. And now that my kids are teenagers, they know they do not bake unless they can clean up after themselves. So it's not like there's a huge project left for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids want a certain element of it. Like maybe they want to decorate the cake, but they don't actually want to make the cake. So you can make the cake and make the frosting and then leave it to them.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to roll and cut the cookies, but they don't want to make the dough.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want to make the dough and then they're done.
Yeah.
And so if your kids are like losing interest or getting tired, I'd say, let them walk away from something. As long as you're doing it together and you understand, like they're going to take it as much as they can. Kids they can have short attention spans. And as long as you keep everything really positive and super fun, find ways to put things away for a while.
Yeah. I think exactly what you said. Definitely keep it kind of the recipes, if you're starting from scratch, age appropriate. Because too advanced can make life quite difficult. And then they'll walk away sooner.
Yes.
And then sometimes you think like, oh gosh, what can I help them? What can I get help with? It's the smallest things. Like I've seen George decorate cookies. I will give him, we could have leftover cookie dough from a photo shoot. And I'll give him that little bit of cookie dough. He could be sitting down for 45 minutes, rolling out the cookie dough, cutting it, or I'll give him baked cookies. And we have leftover icing in the fridge always. And he'll just decorate cookies and then he'll do sprinkles and he'll do whatever. And it will take him like an hour.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good advice.
And one thing that we didn't mention, because we talked a lot about sweets, baking bread with kids is one of the most rewarding things you can do.
I did that the other day.
When they're little, they can like squeeze that dough. There's no amount of squeezing that's going to ruin that dough.
Yeah.
They can work with a small piece on their own. There's a lot of time while you're waiting for the bread to rise, but the actionable parts of making bread are very short. So it's really perfect for kids. And then the satisfying look and feel and taste of a fresh baked loaf of bread is so magical.
Yeah.
It's really a really special
I totally agree. Bread. You know what? Recently I thought to myself, I need to bake bread with him. And then we did it last week and he helped with the kneading and, he did the scoring. I gave him my blade, which he just thought was just like, wait a second, what's this? And I was like, it's a blade for a knife. And he was like, shut the front door.
I see what George wants to do in the kitchen. He just wants all the knives.
He just wants all the knives. So talking about kids who are very talented in the kitchen, I want to tell you a little bit about Lila Smethurst. Now, she is 13 years old. She's from San Antonio, Texas. She won season 12 of Food Network's Kids Baking in 2024. She found a passion for baking while her mom, Jill, was actually recovering from breast cancer. She used that time at home with her family during that difficult time to practice her baking skills. And this is where she got the idea to audition for Kids Baking Championship. So she is very talented. Today, she actually does custom bakes. She does TV appearances. She's really a beautiful young girl, very talented. She makes custom cakes, makes custom desserts. And we're actually very fortunate today that we're going to hear a little bit from her right now. So check out this video.
Hi, my name is Lila, and I won Season 12 of Food Network's Kids Baking Championship. I'm so excited to be on the Need to Know podcast today to answer some questions. I've always liked to bake with my mom and my Nana ever since I was little, and I really just loved watching Kids Baking Championship. I've always wanted to be like the kids on that show. So I would just go in the kitchen and try to make whatever they were making, and I fell in love with it. I like to bake because I like to use my gift to make other people happy. If I could just be a little part of someone's birthday or wedding or any sort of special event, and for other people to eat my desserts, it makes them happy. So it brings me joy to make other people happy. I got started baking because I love watching Kids Baking Championship, and I also did this thing when I was little called Radish Kids. And my parents got it for me. It's like a subscription. And every month they send you this little box with like a whole meal planned out, and it had a dessert too, and it gave you step-by-step instructions on how to make it. And that was just really, really fun for me to have something that explained how to cook and how to bake in really simple steps that I could understand when I was little. So I would definitely recommend that. And also just watching Food Network shows really gave me a lot of inspiration. Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Thank you so much, Lila. And if you want to learn more about her, then follow her on social. Her Instagram is @LilaS_butterbomb_bakery. And that brings us to the Bold Baking Hotline. Ami, I have got a great question for you. Somebody asked, which recipes are safe, no knives, no ovens, and don't require much adult help?
Okay.
On biggerbolderbaking.com.
All
so
right.
give us the lowdown.
I'll tell you what, I have two really great ideas. The first one is any of your microwave recipes.
Yes.
Your microwave cakes, your microwave bowls. You've got savory, like microwave pizza or like pizza, or, you've got some savory stuff. All of that stuff. My kids go crazy for that. They love it. I think kids younger than mine could do it. As long as they can read a recipe, they put a few things together in a bowl. It's a microwave. Kids do have to be careful. The bowl can get hot a little bit. But for the most part, they're easy, accessible, safe, and kids love it. And it's immediate. You don't have to wait for the oven to heat up. You don't have to wait for things to cool down. You can really just, in 5 minutes have a treat. My other suggestion is any of your no-churn ice creams. Now, if you've got a child like my son, Kieran, who has endless amounts of energy, you don't even give him a machine or her a machine. You give her a bowl and a whisk and say, whip this cream. And I'll tell you what, Kieran is my cream whipper. He will whip and whip and whip and whip. He loves it. He whips everything by hand, and he still has tons of energy afterwards. And then you pour in the condensed milk and whatever mix-ins. You do have to wait a little bit because you got to wait for the ice cream to freeze, but it is a perfect thing. It takes a few bits of kitchen equipment and a little bit of time. And that's a really fun one for the summer.
It's a fun one. I tell you what I've done is it's customizable. So you can make your own flavors also.
Yeah. Okay, Gemma. So I have a question for you. How can I turn baking into a party or a group activity?
So here's what I do for those days. I will make cupcakes and I will put out a whole pile of sprinkles and I will give them their own frostings to put on, or icings. Icings they can do themselves. I will have baked off cookies. I'll give them icings and I'll give them sprinkles. Here's a great one. If you want to give them something a little bit savory, puff pastry. Go to the supermarket, buy puff pastry. It defrosts in no time. Cut them into squares and give them their own fillings. I did this one day. I gave them pizza fillings and I gave them jam fillings and I gave them Nutella. They had they could make 3 or 4 different pockets each, and they all had lunch. And they had something sweet and it was perfect.
That's a great idea.
When I was a child, my mom used to give us leftover pastry from pies and we used to make jam pockets. And that's one of my fondest memories of baking when I was a child was leftover pastry with jam in it.
Oh, well then, so save your extra pie crust.
Yes, to save pie crust, like things like that. Like you don't have to go crazy.
Yeah.
They're so delighted to be a part of anything. So I like, you know, and then if you need to go buy cookies, plain cookies at the shop, then do that. If you need to use box cake mix, you know, do that.
Can I tack on a quick answer to that one? Pizza dough.
So, oh my gosh, pizza dough.
Yeah.
Great one.
Yeah. So everyone gets a little ball of pizza. The kids love stretching out that pizza dough. You give them the sauce. Everyone can customize. They can make their own toppings.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable with a lot of flour over everything. But other than that, it's all kids love that.
And they just made their own lunch.
Yes, exactly.
And I will tell you, so for that, to throw in a bigger, bolder baking recipe, 15-minute pizza dough. 15-minute pizza.
Yeah. Oh, so they could even make their dough.
No yeast. Yeah, mix it by hand and no special equipment. Done.
Right. All right.
Great one. Lastly, Ami, we're going to talk about our favorite time of the year, the holiday season. What are great baking projects that you can do with kids?
Oh, I would say definitely make a big pile of sugar cookie dough or shortbread dough, give them a rolling pin, give them some cookie cutters, and let them go to town, bake those off, and let them decorate it. And you just have to let go of the fact that, you can't expect them to look beautiful. You just have to let the kids have fun with it.
Yeah. I will tell you, during these times of year where the kids are out of school, summertime, Easter, Christmas time, whatever it is, definitely go to biggerbolderbaking.com. I have these activity pages that we created for some of our kids-friendly recipes. We have pizza on there, we have ice cream, we have gelato, we have our homemade goldfish, some really fun recipes for young children. But the best thing about it is they're coloring pages. So you print off your recipe, you make the recipe, and while your baked goods are baking or chilling or freezing or whatever, you get to color in the recipe. So they're really fun. They're good for for up until probably like 12 or 13. And it's just a really fun activity. So we'll leave you on that note.
Okay.
Ami, is it okay? Yeah.
Sounds good.
I felt like I had to check with you. Thank you very much, Ami.
Thank you.
That was very interesting. It's a topic close to my heart because as a mom and as a baker, it's just really important.
Yeah. It's so satisfying and it's so wonderful when your kids want to actually go and, get off the computer and go in the kitchen and make something.
And take the time and, have low expectations and some wine handy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd say thank you to all for watching on YouTube, for listening to wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes. And we will see you back here again really soon. Thank you very much. From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment podcast.